Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tangled Wires, episode something. We don't keep track, really. I am your host today, Vino, Johnny, whatever you want to call me. I write stuff and produce stuff, joined by these two guys.
Hey everybody, I'm Trevor Fox. I am a cartoonist. I like to draw cartoons and lots of furry content because that's a lot of fun.
Hi, my name's Mal, and this really formal intro
Yeah,
was throwing me the fuck off.
I was gonna say after the end, like, this is a really formal intro we got going on. Professionals today.
I'm Mal. I'm the guy who talks a lot, and that's all I got for you. I'm foregoing the formal intro so we can loosen up the joints a little bit here.
Yeah.
That's not different and fun. You gotta mix it up.
That's what I am doing. You guys are doing the formal intro, and I'm mixing it up by doing my own thing and saying, "Fuck that." I'm gonna do crazy shit by not introducing myself in a formal way. So,
But
That just sounds boring.
you sound boring, Mr. Hi, I'm Trevor Fox. I'm a cartoonist. Technically, I am too, to be fair. Yeah. Hi, I'm Mal. I'm a cartoonist. There you go. I did it. In the end, I went ahead and fit the formula. I guess
Thank you.
We made it.
my whole attempt was futile. There you go, everybody.
We did it. We got him. So, let's just get right into it. I want to talk a little bit about video games specifically and stories. So,
And he's gonna open up with a weeb trash game. Full
It's one of
disclosure.
those dating sims on Steam.
Thank God, no.
I mean, there was a dating sim mini game technically. You find the dates by playing an FPS like shooting range mini game. So I've been playing a lot of Yakuza 0 to the point it's very much hindered productivity, but it's a very good game. If you have Game Pass, all the games are on Game Pass. If you don't, they're on Steam now, on PC, they're on Xbox, and playing pretty much anywhere if it doesn't start with Nintendo. I have about 50 hours in it. The campaign itself probably took me about like 25, 30, but I've been trying to get all like the side objectives done just because they're fun.
So, first and foremost, like, what is this for people who have never potentially heard of Yakuza?
Okay, so Yakuza is a series made by Sega, which is probably the second most popular after the obvious one, Virtua Fighter, and pretty much it takes place in Japan, where, as the name implies, you play as Yakuza, and it's pretty much like a crime drama thriller kind of story.
What type of game would you describe it as? Like, is it sandbox open world? Is it a beat 'em up? What type of game is it?
So that's an oddly loaded question.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of a little bit of everything. Like the main, like, if you're not doing any side activity at all, you're just strictly playing the main story. It's kind of like somewhat open world, kind of like beat 'em up game. So like, as you run around town, like you'll get random encounters where you get to like fight like thugs or yakuza or whatever, and it's like a 3D like kind of fighting game, kind of like not as like combo heavy as Devil May Cry, but like the same kind of like style of like fighting, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's like the main story. You play as two protagonists, and they each have three like different fighting styles. Four, because they both have like this like really long-winded side quest you can do that then unlocks like a secret full style. But there's pretty much three for each. So like, as you're playing, every two chapters you switch protagonists, so like you get a feel for both of them pretty evenly, and then that's the main game. Like, now when you get to like side content, and there was a lot of side content, the side content is probably like what Yakuza is probably most known for, because like if you ever like look into like someone playing Yakuza, like a stream, I had this before, like every single time it looked like just an entirely different game because of how much like variety there is. So like,
Yeah. So, like, just from me seeing bits and pieces of it on the internet, I didn't even know there was hand-to-hand combat in the game at all. Truth be told.
That's just like how when it's because like it's one of the it's just so much to do and like because of that if you ever get like bored of like oh I don't want to progress the story too much anymore I want to do some side stuff you can do that or like if you're trying to like 100% it there's so much you can do it's like I want to take a break from like doing this and go start doing this like some of the side quests like side things like there's like karaoke which is like a rhythm game there's like disco which is another rhythm game.
That's the shit I've seen, the rhythm game stuff.
Very good rhythm game. It's simple but fun. Disco I don't like that much because it's really hard. Then there's it's mentioned earlier. I think I said it earlier. There's like this weird like you go to a telephone club and like you have to play this weird FPS game to try and get a date with somebody. There's like one of the like the side like it's like a main storyline but like a side one like it's optional well like you have to run a real estate agency to like run out 5 like billionaires and that's like a whole thing and like that game's like on like it pretty much plays like a mobile game but like even though you're just kind of just pressing buttons just the story itself is just so interesting like you just keep wanting to do it and progress in it.
All right, what I'm gathering is there's like 5 different genres crammed into this one game.
There's probably every genre of video game in a Yakuza game.
Damn.
Now, your experience with the Yakuza games, is it just one right now? How many have you played?
So right now, the only Yakuza game I've played is Yakuza 0, which while it's not like the first game, pretty much like all the fans of the series say start with Yakuza 0 because like it sets up like the story like really well and it makes the events that happen in Yakuza 1 significantly more impactful.
Gotcha.
And like at its core like Yakuza like combat wise which is like again like the like main gameplay when you're actually progressing you're doing a bunch of fighting because you play as 2 protagonists you play as a guy named Kiryu and then the other one's a guy named Majima. Kiryu, I did not like fighting as to the point like I almost gave up on the game because I was just not having fun with the combat. But when I unlocked Majima, the combat got a lot more fun just because his combat's just a lot more crazier and just like.
What makes it so crazy? Like, what makes it so fun?
So with Majima, because you like the way you learn fighting styles in the game is pretty much they're just like you randomly come across someone doing something and then they just go like. They react to it and it's just like they like picture themselves doing it and that's how they learn so like one he
what
yeah so like my favorite one it's a Majima one when he learns one of his fighting styles he's walking down the street and he sees guys doing a breakdancing battle and he goes holy shit and then he pictures himself breakdancing and then that's how he learns the fighting style that's literally just breakdancing on and just hitting people with your legs.
Man, I wish in real life just watch some Kung Fu masters. They're like, man, can I do that? And I picture myself doing that. And I just have it. I can do it.
Wow.
It's great. They just go like, that's rad. And then they fix themselves and then you just know how to do it. Yeah, so...
That's funny.
That one's my favorite style. Like, Majima's like, his fighting style just because it's so like more energetic than Kiryu's, which is just kind of more generic. You're just kind of punching people.
Oh, you told me this. Doesn't the game have like the official stamp of the real Yakuza?
So some journalist a while ago, he like showed the game to like actual Yakuza, and I'm like, they like gave it like the seal of approval. They said like I think it was a direct quote where like, in terms of authenticity, 2 thumbs up without a doubt. So like because of that. All the crazy shit that happens in Yakuza games, like, going in with that knowledge just makes it so much funnier. Because, like, just some examples of some of the shit that happens in Yakuza games. Like, side story stuff, like, one of them, you have to get... There's, like, a little bowling quest, which bowling's another mini game you can play in Yakuza.
Of course, it's a bowling game, too.
And then you have to like befriend the store owner by just keep playing with it, and then you you get like this contest where you have to get 3 strikes in a row. I think it's called like a turkey in bowling, so you have to get one of those. And then after you do, you get a live chicken that the main character names Nugget, and he makes them a manager at the real estate that he runs.
Whoa! You lost me. What are you saying, Trevor?
I said he makes the chicken the manager.
He makes a chicken a manager that you can set up in the real estate minigame.
Oh my gosh.
That is one of the many things that the side stories. That's like Yakuza, like at least Zero specifically, and I know the other ones do too. But I can only speak for Yakuza 0 because you only played so far. I'm almost done getting everything and then moving on to Yakuza Kiwami, which is the remake of 1. The side stories are like kind of like a lot of like the comedy and like it's like a break from like the like super like thrilling like drama side of like the main storyline, and it works really well because like even though there's like these outlandish scenarios, none of the like the main characters still like they're in character, like they're not like acting any different than they would in the main storyline. And that's what definitely where Yakuza like shines the best, because the characters in Yakuza, like I as far as the main characters go, there is not a single character that is not like really good and well written. Like you either like you love them or like you love to hate them. Like there's like no character where it's like whatever. Like it invests you in like all the characters that like it introduces you to.
Well, hey, that's always good, because like so often in like books I'm reading, especially like characters, like even really skilled writers will wind up just drifting back to making characters just blanket stereotypes, and like that always like can be frustrating for me. But I'm glad that despite this game being so freaking outlandish, they still like have competent writing.
Yeah, like I think like probably like without a doubt the writing is like the strongest part about Yakuza 0, because like I mentioned, I wasn't crazy about the combat, but like originally I kept playing because the story just kept finding ways to like drag me in, and like I would only spend like I was like, okay, I want to play this game for like 1-2 hours so I don't like overwork, like get too like invested, and like I can still like be productive. But like after a point it gets to the point where like it keeps ramping up, and you'll just like I went from like 10-15 hours to like almost 30 just because I wanted to get to the ending, because I was just so invested in what happened to all the characters, especially when like the 2 crossing paths finally meet, because it takes so long. But like the build up to it feels so fucking worth it. And like the thing that like with Yakuza 0 specifically, like it is, I can probably say like one of the best stories I've played through in a video game. Even probably even including movies and TV. Like I loved all the characters. I loved the story notes they hit. Like it hit notes super well, and like the story it wanted to tell, and like it acts like kind of an introduction to Yakuza. That's like the prequel. They play into it to where like this is a starting point of the series, and there's enough prequel elements so you can see like fans of the series before who haven't played Yakuza 0 yet, but they played the other ones. But like the only like downside is like some characters like they can't make it into the other games because like they're not in there, so like they have to like die, they have to go to jail. But like going in with no knowledge, I don't know any of like the fates of the characters.
Okay.
But like everything's just, it's super well written, and like even like without all the side stuff, like the side stuff is like what gives Yakuza like the personality that it has. But like even without that, and like strictly with the main quest, it's still like such a well written game, and it's just such a rare thing to see. Because like the last time, I honest to God don't remember the last time I was emotionally invested in a video game characters. But I was invested with what happened to like pretty much every character in this game. Like deaths, like when like certain characters die, like it fucking hit me. I was like, oh, like I don't usually get emotional at video games. I was like, it was like almost tear jerking me. But like there's so many
awesome.
like it's such a rare thing to see, like especially like nowadays where like death's treated so like willy nilly in like a lot of like modern video games, to where like they make it so obvious, like, oh, this guy's definitely gonna die, or this guy's not gonna make it. But like the way Yakuza was written, like I did not guess anything that was gonna happen in that game, and that's, I think, what's one of the strongest suits about it. And like at the end, I like marathon like the last 5 chapters of the game. I think there's 17 in total, but like, because just once it reaches like the climax part, like it just sucks you in, and you just want to just see how it all ends. And I think that's definitely one, like if you like storied video games, I highly recommend Yakuza 0. I also just in general highly recommend Yakuza 0, just because there's just so much to see and do in it, and just it's really good.
Yeah, that's one hell of a pitch right there, dude. I mean, just the story alone, that's what's really got me. Because I mean, like gameplay can be really fun, but usually if the story is just half-assed or thrown in there,
Yeah.
like it's not enough to hold me. But if like this story really is on the level that you're making it out to be, fuck, man, yeah, I might love this game as much as you do.
It's really
Okay, now I have a question because I do really love like story and RPGs and stuff, but I find that as I get older, it's really harder. It's a lot harder for me to invest that time and care into a story where I might have gotten into it when I was younger.
Hmm.
For example, like I don't particularly care for the Fallout games. I think some of it has to do with the setting. It's not really my thing, but there's I view dialogue trees as pointless because the choices don't matter that much, and if they do, there's only a set amount of choices. So it's not really me playing a character as much as me trying to get all of the items that I can, making sure I don't miss the most powerful item, and looking up a guide to see like which of the 3 endings I'm going to get, what'll lead to what, because nothing really matters beyond that.
Right.
So the problem I have with those games is mainly the pacing, in that like I don't feel like there's a good pacing between getting dialogue and playing the game. And usually I feel like when I'm trying to play the game, everything about the game is designed to hold me back. Oh, you can't shoot this person because you're going to make all these people mad at you. Then you can't progress this quest line. Then you're locked out of this content. I don't like not kill people because I feel bad about it. I do it because I'm going to miss out on some items. It's a game. I want to play it to have fun.
Right.
The point that I'm driving at is, do you feel that Yakuza has a good balance between gameplay and story, and they do a good enough job with everything to make it not feel tedious?
Yes, and let me elaborate a little more. So there's no like, as like one of the like the problems you have, like there's no like weapons, or like there's weapons you can get, but they're not like things that like they're ultimately pointless, because like only like a few styles can use it, and like usually the weaker ones. So like you don't need to like run around for items, because pretty much everything you get is from an upgrade tree that you just buy with money that you just get from fights. So like you're not like searching out for like, oh, I need to find these weapons or whatever.
But there's still that element of upgrades and progression.
Yeah, so like there's progression, because like you invest money into yourself, and then as you get more money, like you get more money as the game progresses, just has a nature of RPGs, so you can upgrade quicker. And then like if you do the real estate side quest, you get like a shit ton of money that's like consistent like money income, so like you can keep upgrading yourself. But like that's not like free money, because you have to work for it. But there's like an upgrade and progression system, and like a lot of like outside of like the random encounter combats, like the combat is like helps like to progress the story rather than like hold it back. And generally speaking, like unless like you go like, just because like sometimes we say, okay, we need to go to like the Yakuza headquarters, like, but after we go there, we won't be able to come back until like because that's usually like when the chapter ends, is when like you leave town. But like all the side content isn't like locked with the story. Like you can do it at your own leisure.
Okay. Well, that's really nice to hear.
Yeah, and then there's also like the random encounters. Later on in the game, I think like chapter 4 or 5, I want to say, you get like this ability where you pretty much, I don't want to spoil it because it's funny. It's just fun to run into, but you get a way to like you can just avoid like the random encounters on the street, because like with Majima, I didn't mind it, but when I was playing as Q, just because I didn't like fighting with him that much, I usually wanted to avoid those, so that came in really helpful.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'd have to give it a shot myself, but again, just from the way you've been pitching this, I'm honestly like taking a look at it right now. I might give it a shot. The only thing I'm scared of is how much of a time sink it's gonna be.
uh, it's not like it's. I mean, it's about as like the time sink as you make it out to be. Like, if you want to like just play through the game, it's probably like 20, 30 hours if like you're just playing through just the storyline, because like there's 17 chapters and there's usually like 2 or 3 acts and like doing each chapter, and then but like if you're doing like side stuff, like it'll add on more hours, but at the same time the side stuff, like the sub, because like there's the main stories and then they have the burp. Give me a second, I apologize. Oh yeah. It's like there's a main thing and there's a bunch of what are called sub stories, which are like kind of like side quests, but like not entirely. Well, like that's usually like a lot of like the wacky stuff you see Yakuza has going on. They usually involve that. Like there's serious ones and there's also silly ones. Like you go to it and then you can't really fail them. Like that's the one you do get like dialogue trees, but like you generally speaking they don't like alter the outcome. Like sometimes you pick the wrong one, you get into a fight. Other times you don't. It just kind of depends. But pretty much it's just like there's like the real answer, like the maybe answer, and then the one that's like really obviously wrong, but like it's funny, so you click it anyways. So like there's one where like you have to like go to like get this girl out of a cult, and you have to like memorize like the a greeting they do for it, and like there's like the two options, and then one of them is just to start doing the hustle, the dance. It's pretty much like that kind of thing, but ultimately like it doesn't like affect like the progress of the sub story, so it's not like you don't need to worry about it, but like it's just kind of like there's different outcomes, but like for the dialogue, but it still progresses all the same.
I guess what I'm worried about is like, what's the total number of hours that it takes to fully complete this game and get through, like just roughly get through everything?
I would probably say if you're like strictly doing just main story, none of the side stuff, probably like 20 to 30, depending on how fast you are and how much you get through it.
I mean, like everything though, because like you
Everything.
say that there's other stuff beside that.
Everything. I can't speak for too much because like I want to get like all the side stories and everything. So I have most of it done. I'm sitting a little over 50 hours right now.
Okay, that's not too bad actually, all things considered.
Yeah, it helps too because like the sub stories are usually you just kind of have to like walk around and hope you find them, but both characters can unlock an item that pretty much shows you where all like the side quests are.
Do you feel that the writing is pretty equivalent for the side stories and the main story, as far as like investment, interest, stuff like that?
Uh, yes, like they're generally tonally different, just because like the side stories are more fun, while this main story stays pretty much serious for the most part. But
Uh-huh.
the writing is still just as good on the sub stories. Some of them are a little weaker than others, which is
Right.
to be expected. But like overall, though, like the writing for the sub stories, like they were still really enjoyable.
Okay. Cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, so people.
Yeah, definitely make me want to check it out. It's just that I'm playing through Dragon's Dogma right now, and that's another big open world type of game that I've got to get through.
That's
I've been
that's
having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, what I've been doing in a lot of my spare time is I started reading the Witcher books,
mm,
or listening to the audiobook, because I want to be able to draw and do studies and stuff, and as I do that, because that's always been like a thing with me and reading, is that it's really cool, but to be able to just sit down and read a book, I mean, there's something special about it, that's
mm,
for sure, but it's like you got to be fully in it,
Yeah.
versus like an
right.
audio book, which is what I've been using lately. But I've been reading the Witcher series because I want to play Witcher 3, but I want to get full context for
Mm,
everything that's going on in it. And yeah, it's kind of like I'm reading a book to play a video game, but hey, it's got me reading or listening to a book, so I see this as like a win. Like, hey, I'm doing great stuff for my brain, even if it is just to play a video game.
How are you enjoying it?
It's fucking great, dude. They're incredibly well written. I'm honestly impressed, especially since they were originally written in Polish and they technically had to be translated by a totally other writer. But it doesn't even seem like they were originally in Polish at all. Like they were perfectly translated. Yeah, I'm really enjoying them, and I know that a lot of characters that were in the original books wind up showing up in Witcher 3. Not so much in the other two games, but in Witcher 3 they do, and I'm like, okay, I want to be able to fully appreciate this as like a package. So I've started doing homework, I guess you could say.
No, I enjoy the writing in Witcher 3. Like, one of the big compliments I always give the game is that the people feel like they're written like people.
Yeah,
I really like it.
yeah, I'm really excited to play the game, and I was really tempted to jump right into it. And I know you technically can, like it sets itself up to where if you've played the other Witcher games, or like even if you haven't read the books, like you can. But I'm like, I want to be able to like fully appreciate it because I know how great this game is. Like it still looks great. Obviously, it came out a few years ago only. But I'm just like, I want to be able to take it in for all that it is, especially. Um, yeah, that's kind of my master plan, I guess.
Like, I hate dialogue trees in games, and that's the type of game Witcher 3 is, and I still like it.
Yeah, I think it can be done, but it takes a good amount of tact. Like obviously it's been memed to high heaven, but Fallout 4 is like an example of how you don't do it.
Well, like, Witcher 3 still has those oddities where it's like, do you decline his offer? And it's like, gives you the option. It's like, no thanks. And then you pick it, and Witcher's like, fuck off. It's like, oh, okay, well, didn't really mean to say it like that, but whatever.
But no, I like that because like here's the thing with Witcher though, like you can't look at it like, oh, I'm playing my character. No, you're playing Geralt. You're like
Yeah,
you're playing a pre-existing character. So when you're in that kind of situation, I think the whole, oh, I didn't mean to say that is more acceptable than like, oh, you're creating a character from the ground up and they're trying to mimic like a D&D sort of thing where this is your character. Because in this case, like I said, it's not your character. You're just
yeah,
kind of getting a like it's kind of like it's a character because it's a pre-established character. You're kind of more like on a train where like there are certain tracks that you can shift here and there, but a lot of it's already decided for you. I think that can be a lot of fun, but it all depends on like your personal preferences.
yeah.
What was that?
Well, and
Yeah.
when you do get to the game, you'll have to let me know how you like it.
Yeah, I get a feeling I'm gonna fucking love it. Even apart from the context I have or I will have at the time, I've already heard so many goddamn good things about it. It's why I've thought about playing it so many times, but I'm like, no, I want this to be, I want to fully be able to enjoy this. Also, because I've played Cyberpunk now, and I've seen, holy crap, like this is like CD Projekt Red at its worst, a lot of the reason why it came out the way it did, Cyberpunk, is because they were high off of the success of Witcher 3. Like, oh yeah, we'll figure out Cyberpunk. See, look at all the rave reviews we got for Witcher 3. We're like, on top of the world right now. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. No big deal. But that led to them fucking it up. So I'm kind of like, if their judgment was so clouded by their own success that they made a game as flawed as Cyberpunk, I'm
Like,
thinking, okay, I want to see what got them to this point, like what got them on their high horse, because it must be fucking stellar, you know?
yeah. It's funny though. Vino mentioned not liking some of the gameplay aspects of Yakuza, some of them. I feel the same about Witcher 3. I really hate the inputs in Witcher 3
The inputs, what
because
do you mean?
so the excuse is that, like, in real life, if you're running, when you come to a halt, you don't immediately stop. You have weight to you. You have to slow down and come to a halt. Well, they try to mimic that with Geralt, but instead of like feeling realistic, it just feels like you have lag to all your input. So you press like the joystick to move forward, and then like half a second later, he decides to start moving, and then you let go, and he like stops half a second later, and it's this really slight delay that throws off the movement where I'm constantly like running into walls instead of through doorways, and it's really frustrating. But the combat, like when you're swinging your weapon, doesn't have that delay to it. The combat is very instant, which just exacerbates the problem to me, and I find it like unnecessarily frustrating. They finally added an alternate control scheme which reduces the lag, but it doesn't get rid of it, so it's still there. It's just annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, and again, I haven't played it myself, so my opinion isn't informed, but it sounds like a really cool idea in concept, not so much in not so much in execution necessarily, because of the fact that, yeah, when you have that contrast of you're fighting and you push X and something happens, or you swing your sword or you block whatever, and then all of a sudden, oh, combat's over, and I'm just walking around the town. Oh, well, now all of a sudden, I just walked by that vendor. I wanted to talk by that vendor, or I wanted to talk to that vendor, but I just walked right by him. I can see how that could drive you nuts. So I'll let you know how I think that is when I eventually play it, because I can see myself getting used to it, being like, okay, this is a really, really cool element. I'm glad they added this. I could also see myself being like, this is stupid, and being more in your boat and having it be frustrating.
It didn't destroy the game for me, if that's any consolation. I mean, I put 90 hours into it before I lost my save file, so I mean, I had some good investment in that game, but I'm still not a fan of that control scheme. I have a friend, doesn't bother him at all, but no matter how much I tried to get used to it, I just never could fully be okay with it.
Out of curiosity, do you usually play games with a controller or a keyboard?
And it depends on the game.
Hmm.
Uh,
What do you play Witcher 3 with?
controller.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
like if it's a third person game, I'll try and do it with a controller. A few exceptions, I'll try and do like keyboard and mouse. First person shooter, keyboard and mouse. Platformer, racing game, stuff like that. Always got to have a controller for those.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Whenever I've played platformers, I didn't even think about it till now. Whenever I play platformers, I pretty much always switch to my controller. But if it's like a shooter, no, I gotta have a keyboard and mouse. Like it just I just can't do it. I honestly like I used to play shooters with a controller, but now that I've leveled up to hashtag PC Master Race, I can't go back anymore.
It's really hard.
Even with a game like Halo, which is made to be played with like a controller, or at least it originally was, I have to use the keyboard and mouse. It just doesn't feel right.
I would definitely not say that I'm a weak gamer with FPS games. I can't aim for crap and hit stuff,
Oh,
but gotta have keyboard and mouse when playing those, though.
yeah, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I am not very good. Like I was literally playing Halo Online with my friends a few years ago. It was before they released a lot of them on Steam. It was like a bootleg kind of version.
Yeah.
They were like yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I was playing that with my friends. I was the only guy using a keyboard and mouse. Everybody else was like using a controller and shit, and they were playing it on their crappy laptops, and I was just getting destroyed. They were mopping the floor with me. I got like last place out of the four of us playing, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be good. I've got like a keyboard and mouse. What's wrong? So it can be done. You can play it with a controller. It just, I don't know. I feel like I have more control with a keyboard and mouse, even though I might not. It might just be a placebo.
Yeah. Even though there are preferred controllers for certain types of games that do better, you can get good with anything you put the practice into.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, whenever I started playing with a keyboard and mouse a few years ago, it was like a foreign thing to me. It's like, what the fuck? Like I never understood how can you, like hit all these buttons and be able to hit them without looking at the keyboard every single time. Like, what the fuck? How do people play like this? But I taught myself how to type, and then I kept practicing with it, and now it's like I can't even go back. Like if I try to play a shooter with a controller, it's like I feel like I've got sandbags tied to my ankles, or at least my character does, and like everything's so slow and sluggish, and it's all fucking weird. I say this as someone who, when he was a kid, I played first-person shooters on my laptop with the tiny little
Oh
touchpad.
my god.
Yeah, I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 online with that shitty little touchpad, and I actually did okay. I have no fucking idea how I did that, but you're right. If you practice enough with something, you'll figure it out, I guess.
See, that's something that's really weird. You bring that up, how you did better, like, as a kid with something. And I feel
Yeah.
like that with certain games, like as a kid, my reaction time was a lot better, but as an adult, my understanding of certain concepts and how to apply certain things is better. So I've gotten better in one way at games, and I've gotten worse in another. My reaction time is nothing like what it used to be.
Yeah, and also like being more aware and stuff and being able to critically think more impacts it in general, like you were saying. Because I used to despise stealth games. I used to hate them, but now that, I actually kind of understand, like I can logically think, okay, if I hide behind this box, just because this guy, or just because I can't see a guy doesn't mean he can't see me, like basic object permanent shit, yeah, but also just being able to position yourself in a strategic place, take advantage of your surroundings and stuff. That kind of shit's a lot of fun for me. But as a kid, it was like a foreign language. Like, how the fuck do I do this? Let's go back to Mario where I just push A to jump and punch blocks. Like,
Oh, man. Oh, I did want to talk a little bit about Dragon's Dogma. It's not going to be long. I've just been having fun with the game, and it's like medieval fantasy open world kind of thing.
oh yeah,
There you go.
I played that game for a little bit. I played it for a few hours a couple years ago, but I didn't play it long enough to get fully invested. But I was liking what I saw.
So the game is a bit dated in some ways. Like, you have to run everywhere. You do get these like teleport crystals, but you have to like manually put them down, and then you get these fairy stones, but they're limited use. Except I have an unlimited use one, which might just come with the DLC. Anyway, there's a stamina meter. You have to run everywhere. It doesn't really explain everything at the beginning, and you get thrown into some pretty hard quests because it just like opens up to you, and you can do whatever. I had to have someone kind of guide me and help me and give me a little push in the right direction. But like once they did that, I've been really loving the game. I love how the game just lets you have fun with stuff. So the main system, the combat system in the game is you create your character at the beginning, right?
No, yeah.
Then you get to this little fortress and they have you create another character. This other character is known as your pawn. They come from like another dimension. They're meant to serve you. That character, as it goes on journeys with you, will level up. As you do quests, the AI learns what you need to do for that quest. It learns how to fight certain enemies as you fight those enemies. And then that pawn can be downloaded by other people that play the game and help them in their game.
What the heck?
And then the knowledge that the pawn gets from playing with them, he'll keep that and come back to you.
Ah, that's
So,
really cool. I've never seen like that in anything like that in the game before.
so like, I have my pawns with me. I have two that I downloaded and the one that I created. And while we're fighting like a bunch of goblins, my pawn will grab the goblin and hold him so the goblin can't move. And he's like, now strike it. So the goblin's just screaming in terror as I take my daggers and I'm shoving it into its stomach while it can't move.
Wow.
And so it dies. And I'm like, man, this game's freaking awesome. My pawn will take his sword and impale someone on the end of it, and they're stuck impaled on his sword while like everyone else is attacking them.
Jesus Christ, this is brutal.
Oh, it's so brutal and it's amazing. They're like lay on top of wolves so the wolf can't get away, and you burn the wolf in the cinders. I'll walk along the road and pick someone up that's traveling, and I'll walk over to a cliff and just chuck them off the cliff for fun. And
Jesus
you
Christ!
watch them
Wow.
like fall head first into the rocks below with this giant blood splatter, and they
Jesus
don't
Christ,
move.
Trevor, is there something you want to tell us?
This game lets you have fun. This game lets you play it and just enjoy the game. Now,
Man.
when you get to the main castle town, that's when you have to like watch yourself. If you do anything that makes the guards mad, like attacking people, they'll throw you in jail, and you got to pay money to get out of jail, or you have to wait 45 minutes, I think it is, because that's a full day in the game.
My God.
I freaking love this game.
Yeah, I can tell you just from your descriptions, it seems like it's very inventive in the different ways that you can slice dice and
Oh yeah,
torture people, I guess.
it was great. I came out of the castle one time, and this mugger like comes out and is like, "Give me all your stuff," and we just like immediately destroy him. Reminded me of the Master Thief in our For the King game.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I can tell like a lot of this, a lot of the appeal I imagine comes from kind of like the power fantasy element of it. Like, man, my character's so strong and so cool and can do this, and that's like very legitimate. I've played games where you get that kind of feeling too, where like just so much of the satisfaction of playing it is just being able to feel like strong and do whatever you want, quote unquote, within the context of the game, you know.
Oh yeah, like I love seeing what I can get away with in a game. And there are people that are way more creative than I am, and they'll think of stuff I never would have thought of. That's why I love watching like different gaming compilations. It's crazy what people will think to do. But it's
Yeah.
fun what the game will just let you get away with. It's like, here's the game, here's the controls and the combat. Now have fun with it, and I love that. Like, I don't. It's not like, here's the game, here's the controls and combat, but don't do half of it because that's bad and we'll punish you for it. It's like, then why did you give it to me?
Well, like for me, it doesn't bother me as much because whenever I play a game, oftentimes, of course, there's exceptions where like I will want to be like, okay, let's just see what I can do to break it, or like, or what fun, crazy shit I can do. But oftentimes, I try my best to get immersed in it. So like, if the game like doesn't let me like go around and like start murdering people ad nauseum, then it's like, okay, I'm not gonna be too upset by that because like if I was actually playing a character in this universe, I wouldn't do that, or if I did do that, I would be hung by the gallows the very next day, and I wouldn't be able to do that. So
Mhm.
when I'm getting invested in a story and I'm really trying to get immersed in the world, if the game doesn't let me do like absolutely whatever I want, that's less likely to bother me, especially if it's a well-written game, a well-written universe, and I'm getting successfully invested in what's going on.
Yes, for me, I would say that those are not mutually exclusive things for me. Um, there's a balance that you can strike with it, and like I said, if you do stuff in the town in Dragon's Dogma, you're gonna pay for that.
Right,
You have
yeah.
to be careful, but it's not like game breaking bad. It doesn't stop you from doing stuff. You can still have fun.
Yeah,
Um,
you are right. There is like a middle of the road thing for it. Like it's not necessarily one or the other. It just I guess what I'm saying is like for me, of course, it depends on the game. It 100% depends on the game. So it is kind of hard for me to speak definitively on it because there's probably all kinds of exceptions to this. But usually, if a game is able to string me along, if it's able to get me hooked, um, I'll be more willing to forgive like a lack of liberty that it grants to players, I guess is my general thesis here.
yeah, I can agree with that. It has to be done right, and then that's going to be different for everybody based on taste and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I do feel like some games definitely do it better than others.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, heck, I've always liked. I mean, I know everyone always talks about Skyrim, but I've always liked how open that game does feel. Yeah, of course, like if you want to do stuff beyond like killing monsters and shooting fire from your hands, it doesn't go much beyond that. But within that specific context, there's a whole world to explore and go out and do stuff in.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think that the most egregious games for taking away liberty from the player is definitely Call of Duty main story.
Oh, I haven't even played those games, but I can tell you just from like osmosis, the information I've absorbed. Yeah, I'm
It's
not
like
surprised by that.
it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Were you in a firefight and a stray bullet, just happened to clip a friendly? Well, friendly fire is not tolerated. Start from the checkpoint.
Oh, wow.
God.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I guess I guess it does depend on how you look at it because on one hand, okay, so is the game just supposed to pretend that you didn't just shoot like one of your comrades? Is it just supposed to like either way it's like immersion breaking. Either A, the game says you fucked up, you shot one of your comrades and now you got to restart, or it's just got to pretend like you didn't just do that. Because if you did that in real life, okay, that would fuck up everything. Like you'd be well, to say you'd be in trouble would be like an understatement. So it's kind of like you're caught between a rock and a hard place, I guess, if I was to play devil's advocate for the game.
Uh, my only beef is that, like, just because I want to sit there and unload 5 clips into my comrade because they've gotten on my nerves or I've gotten bored or I just want to have fun. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the Call of Duty was never like super accurate, 100% realistic depiction of like things with how it plays out. I mean, you're a super
Yeah.
soldier,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it just kind of depends, I guess, because I think like being realistic and immersive and all that stuff can be great for some games, but for others, like for Call of Duty, to be fair, like because I was playing Devil's Advocate there, to be fair, like you're not playing those games to be have like a realistic war simulator. No, you just want the satisfaction of like shooting a gun and like taking out enemies and stuff. It's more about just the gameplay and experiencing it versus I don't know, Jack Carter, United States Marine Regiment 573, and I'm fully getting into that, man. Like, no, most people aren't gonna really get that invested in it. That's not what they're there for.
Man.
Dude, I didn't realize how much of a shooting gallery the first Modern Warfare game was until I went back and replayed it. And that's not like it's not a detriment against it. I love that one. I think it's great. But I did notice just going back through it, there are sections where enemies just nonstop keep pouring out, like clones of the same 5 types of enemies for a while. Like it's just a shooting gallery for fun.
Yeah, and it kind of like takes you back to what we tolerated more so like with games of that era where like
Yeah.
yeah sure like it was a copy of the same enemy but that was just par for the course at the time because of limited technology. Nowadays it's like when you see that you're a lot more likely to be like that's a little weird, that's kind of immersion breaking, and it's kind of unfortunate on one hand but it's also understandable.
Mm.
Anyway, I guess that's my say on stuff.
Alright. Uh, Only for a little under 50. You can call it a little early unless anyone has anything else they want to bring up.
Well, Mal, didn't you have one more thing you wanted to talk about?
I actually already kind of addressed it. So what I was gonna get into was how like because of like all the books I've been reading lately, or I've been doing more of it lately, I guess I should say, because I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some major bookworm. Bookworm. Look at all the books I have on my shelf, guys. I'm an educated individual. No, I've just started reading a few books on the side. But what I was gonna get into was the fact that like so many characters and stories kind of fall victim to the fact of being like cardboard cutouts and stuff. And we kind of touched on that before when we were talking about the writing of the Yakuza games, or at least Yakuza Zero, how the characters avoid that so much. And I can really appreciate that because, like it's like that really, at least for me, I don't know what it is for you guys, but the believability of the characters is like central to everything in a story for me. Even if the world is like mediocre and like okay, whatever, fine. Even if like some of the other technical aspects of the world aren't polished out, like the economy or the caste system that might exist in a given society, like that's fine. What's central to everything for me is, do I believe that these characters could exist? Am I invested in what they're doing? And if you at least have that down, like you've got me sold. And I was just like trying to lay out or planning to lay out like how my philosophy on that is when it comes to writing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I feel like it's a struggle a lot of fiction struggles with is just lack of making the characters feel like there's something more than just characters, like the get you immersed so like they don't feel like, oh, I'm just watching someone. Like you feel like, yeah, this is like as Mal said, like this is something that could be a person.
Yeah, and like an example of this, the one I'm thinking of specifically is I started reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. The guy's like actually a pretty well-known fantasy author, as it turns out, and he's mainly known for being very good at coming up with robust magic systems that have this very well thought out, lots of cause and effect. And yeah, in his book series Mistborn, he has a very well thought out magic system, and that's what he's known for. And you can tell he put a lot of thought into it, and it really makes things interesting. But then the characters themselves, like they're all cardboard cutouts. The main character, I know this term is very much thrown around, but she's very much a Mary Sue-esque character. We're like, oh, look, she's like struggling at the bottom of society. She's like a thief. And oh, look, she magically has this secret power that she didn't know about. And she magically can just do all these new things. And within like a few months, she basically goes from being a nobody to being like the most powerful magic user known to the world at the moment and stuff. And even if the magic system itself is really, really cool, it very much, in my mind, limits the story when you just take a character and you make them that simple, especially when it's the main character, the person who we're seeing the world through. It's their perspective that's pretty much the same as our own. That's why I'm saying like it's just so important to nail that. And writers that do manage to nail that, god damn, dude, like I've got an insane amount of respect for that.
Mm-hmm.
From zero to hero, just like that.
Yeah, I know. And so many writers I think are just like they're excited to see, oh my god, I want to see my character at their peak. Oh my god, it's so cool. I want to show the world all the cool abilities they have and all the people they know. And they're really excited to get to that climax. And I understand how a writer would feel that way, but it's so important to me at least that feel earned, because by the end of the first book of the Mistborn series, the main character, as you find out at the beginning of the second, not only are they the most powerful magic user, oh, but they also are in a love affair with the king. So like everything's perfect, everything worked out, and they have all these friends. Like, they're really strong, they have more money than they could ever want, and this is like book 1 out of 8. And
God.
I'm like, holy fuck, man, slow down, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe he's planning on like later on knocking them down a peg, but as like a reader at that point, you've already lost me. I'm not gonna keep reading a book series if I don't really care about any of the characters or what's going on. So that's why it's just so important to like hook somebody in right from the get-go, or else they're just fucking gone. I'm just glad I didn't pay for the book. I torrented it. Because like my thing is like, look, if I loved the book and like I was like, okay, I want to read more of these, I'm gonna support the author, then I'd start buying them. But like just to get a feel for it, I'm like, there's so many books out there. There's literally millions upon millions of books out there just in the fantasy genre. So like if I'm gonna take a risk on something, I'm just gonna read it, and if I like it, I'll support the author. There you go. That's how I justify my illegal action, ladies and gentlemen.
He admitted it. We got him.
You got me at the beginning, you got me at the end. Or I guess I got myself at the end, but
And the beginning, really.
yeah, well, shut up. But yeah, there you go. I got gotted at the start and the finish. So I think it's a fantastic, if you'll pardon my pun, bookend to this
God.
this episode.
Yeah. Talked a lot of story, another video game heavy one. A little on the shorter side, but you know what? They can't all be an hour. Some have to be 5 minutes less than an hour, you know?
Why?
To keep people on their toes.
There you go. I was keeping you on your toes.
Exactly. That's my. I'm always on my toes. It hurts a lot to walk.
I was gonna say, I reckon it does.
I don't know, man. You take jujitsu, you can learn how to do that.
Got me there.
You take jujitsu, you can do a lot of freaking things to someone. Jesus Christ.
Also true. Well, thank you all for listening. Well, back to the formal conclusion. Good night.
I'm not
See
gonna
ya,
partake. Yes, yeah. I'm not gonna partake in this formal conclusion. But I don't know how to not partake because I guess the only thing I could say is goodbye right now. So instead, I guess I'm just gonna say, fuck you, I guess.
I threw up the ball for the alley-oop and you just completely missed the ball.
I did it on purpose, mind you. I may have fucked up, but you know what? At least I can say it was my fuck up and it was intentional. So you know what? I can pretend I won. Good night, everybody. Damn it, I did conform. I did conform.